Another great example of area and perimeter is in our historic district of Lakeland. The streets are actually still paved with bricks. So the engineers that got together and decided how many bricks were needed would have had to figure out the area of how many bricks were going to be needed to fill these roads. And they are still here, very bumpy. We are thankful that all of our roads are not still bricks, but they keep this way to remember the historic part. And then again, I don't know if you can see with the sunlight, but these windows of this church, they would have had to find out the perimeter to put that metal around them. But then they're painted this beautiful blue color. So whoever decided to do that needed to know the length and the width to put the metal around, but also needed to know the area to paint the inside of the glass of that window. Another example. Someone had to paint that to know the area, but they also had to know the perimeter of how long a car would be and how wide it would need to be to fit in there. This is part of the historic district. We have many streets here in Lakeland that are still brick, and all of those bricks. So when we're doing our area and we're finding these huge multiplication problems, imagine all of those bricks. So I am standing at another Lakeland famous place. That is the Publix cake that you see. And all around is the Publix distribution center. If you remember that word distribute from the distributive property that we learned for multiplication. And right over here and all down this road is where, if you go to Publix, your food is coming from, or most of it. Here in Polk County, we actually are famous because the very first Publix was made and built here in Winter Haven in 1935. And then in 1943, Mr. George Jenkins bought some of this land so he could have a warehouse. And you see those big buildings back there, where he could distribute out the food that he needed. There it goes, one of the distribution trucks. So when they were making these buildings, they would have had to know the area and perimeter to build the buildings. They would have had to know the length and width that they wanted each building, and then they would have had to know things like that length and width to calculate the area of how much concrete they needed for the flooring. So another example of how area and perimeter are used every day. And this is where you are getting most of your food from if you go to Publix.